My niece smashed my son's homemade birthday cake, sneering, "Ugly cake for an ugly boy." My mother just laughed, telling me to stop being sensitive. I walked out in silence. That night, I permanently dissolved her fully funded college savings account. By dawn, the screaming began. This is where the story truly begins, and trust me, the fallout is unlike anything you've ever heard. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The sound of porcelain shattering on hardwood is distinct. It is sharp, final, and violent. But in that frozen moment in my mother's living room, the sound of the plate breaking wasn't nearly as loud as the silence that followed it. It was supposed to be a safe space. That was the promise I had made to myself, and more importantly, to my son, Leo. He was turning 8 today. For weeks, he had been vibrating with a nervous, electric kind of excitement. Leo isn't like other children. He processes the world differently, with a heart that is wide open and skin that feels too thin for the roughness of this world. He loves colors, he loves textures, and this year, he had developed a fascination with baking. He didn't want a store-bought cake with superheroes on it. He didn't want a professional fondant masterpiece. He wanted to make his own cake. We had spent all of yesterday in my kitchen, covered in flour and sticky blue icing. It was a lopsided, 3-layer vanilla sponge that leaned precariously to the left. The frosting was a chaotic swirl of neon green and electric blue, his favorite colors. To anyone else, it looked like a disaster. To Leo, it was a masterpiece. He was so proud of it that he had insisted on carrying it into his grandmother's house himself, his small hands trembling under the weight of the platter. "Careful, baby," I had whispered, walking a step behind him, ready to catch him if he stumbled. "I got it, Mom. Grandma is going to love the colors," he had beamed, adjusting his thick-rimmed glasses. We walked into the living room where my mother, Joyce, and my sister, Vanessa, were sitting. My niece, Bella, was lounged on the sofa, scrolling through her phone with the bored detachment of a 17-year-old who believes she is too good for her surroundings. Bella was beautiful, in that sharp, polished way that Vanessa had always cultivated, but her eyes held a cruelty that I had tried to ignore for years. "Happy birthday, Leo," Joyce said, though she didn't stand up. She held a glass of white wine, her eyes already slightly glassy at 2:00 p.m. "Look, Grandma, I made it," Leo announced, placing the platter on the coffee table. He stepped back, waiting for the praise he thrived on. Bella looked up from her phone. She didn't smile. She didn't offer a greeting. She just stared at the lopsided neon monstrosity sitting on the expensive oak table. "You," she said. It wasn't a whisper. It was a flat, projected statement. Leo's smile faltered. It's vanilla." "It looks like radioactive vomit," Bella said, letting out a short, harsh laugh. She leaned forward, inspecting it with a curled lip. "Why is it leaning like that? Did you drop it?" "Bella, be nice," I said, my voice sharp. I moved to stand next to Leo, putting a hand on his shoulder. I could feel him shrinking inward. "I'm just being honest," Bella scoffed. "It's embarrassing. Imagine posting that on Instagram. You can't seriously expect us to eat that." "I made it," Leo whispered, his voice trembling. Then it happened. Bella reached out, picked up a heavy serving spoon, and instead of serving a slice, she brought it down hard on the center of the cake. Whack! The structure gave way. The sponge collapsed, blue icing splattering onto the table and onto Leo's new shirt. The cake was destroyed, a ruined pile of crumbs and sugar. "Oops," Bella said deadpan. She looked Leo dead in the eye. "Ugly cake for an ugly boy." The air left the room. I felt a physical blow to my chest, a mixture of shock and blinding, white-hot rage. I looked at my sister, Vanessa. I waited for the reprimand. I waited for her to grab her daughter, to apologize, to do something. Vanessa just took a sip of her iced tea. "Well, she has a point, Elizabeth. It was a bit of a mess. You really should have just bought one." I turned to my mother. My mother, the matriarch, the one who claimed to love all her grandchildren equally. Joyce chuckled. It was a dry, rasping sound. "Oh, stop looking so stricken, Elizabeth. It's just a cake. Don't be so sensitive. Bella is just teasing. Boys need to toughen up anyway. Leo didn't make a sound. He just looked at the ruined pile of what was supposed to be his pride and joy, and then he looked at me. His eyes were filling with tears, magnifying behind his glasses. He looked small. He looked broken. In that split second, something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. It was the quiet sound of a bridge burning, the structural integrity of a lifetime of obligation finally giving way. I didn't scream. I didn't flip the table. I didn't argue with them. I realized, with a terrifying clarity, that arguing would grant them the one thing they wanted, a reaction. They wanted me to be the hysterical single mother so they could roll their eyes and bond over my lack of composure. I smiled. It was the coldest smile I have ever worn. "You're right," I said softly. "It is just a cake." I grabbed a napkin, wiped the blue icing off Leo's shirt, and took his hand. "Come on, Leo, we're leaving." "Already?" Vanessa asked, sounding annoyed. "We haven't even opened gifts. I got him a gift card." "We're leaving," I repeated, walking toward the door. "Don't be dramatic, Elizabeth," Joyce called out after me. "If you walk out that door, don't expect us to come running after you." I paused at the threshold, looking back at the 3 generations of toxicity sitting in that living room. My mother, the enabler, my sister, the narcissist, and Bella, the monster in training. "I don't expect anything from you anymore," I said. "Not a single thing." I closed the door. As the latch clicked, I heard them laughing. They were actually laughing. The betrayal wasn't the insult itself. It was the realization that my son's pain was their entertainment. The drive home was suffocatingly quiet. Usually, Leo talks. He talks about Minecraft, about the birds he saw in the garden, about the way clouds look like mashed potatoes. But today, he just stared out the window, his small hand gripping the seatbelt strap until his knuckles were white. It was raining, a gray, miserable drizzle that matched the ache in my chest. Every time the windshield wipers swished back and forth, I heard my mother's laugh. "Don't be so sensitive." I pulled into our driveway and turned off the engine. I turned to look at him in the backseat. "Leo," I said, keeping my voice steady, masking the tremor of rage that was vibrating through my entire body. "I am so sorry about what happened. That was not your fault. The cake was beautiful. It was the best cake I've ever seen." He looked at me, his eyes red-rimmed. "Why does Bella hate me?" The question hit me like a physical slap. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that his cousin isn't just mean, but that she is a symptom of a generational rot? How do you explain that some people build themselves up by tearing others down? "She doesn't hate you, baby," I lied, unbuckling my seatbelt. She's unhappy inside, and sometimes unhappy people try to make everyone else unhappy too." We went inside. I ordered pizza, the expensive kind he likes from the artisanal place downtown, and we watched his favorite movies. I built a blanket fort in the living room. I did everything I could to salvage the wreckage of his birthday. By 8:00 p.m., he was exhausted. I tucked him into bed, smoothed his hair back, and kissed his forehead. "Mom," he whispered as I turned to leave. "Yes, sweetie." "Can we not go back to Grandma's for a while?" "No," I said, and I meant it. "We are not going back there, I promise." I closed his door and walked downstairs into the kitchen. The house was silent, but my phone was buzzing against the granite countertop. It had been buzzing for hours. I picked it up, 5 missed calls from Joyce, 3 from Vanessa, a string of texts. "Vanessa, 4:30 p.m., you are such a drama queen. Bella feels bad now, she doesn't really, but you know how sensitive she is. Come back and get the gift card." Joyce, 5:15 p.m., you ruined the afternoon, Elizabeth, always making everything about you. Call me. Vanessa, 6:00 p.m., seriously, you're ignoring us over a cake. Grow up. I stared at the messages. The gaslighting was so precise, so practiced. For 39 years, I had played this role. I was the peacemaker, the fixer, the one who absorbed the blows and apologized for bleeding on the carpet. I was the steady one, the one with the high-powered career in operations management, the one who bilaid them out, the one who planned the anniversaries and funded the vacations. They thought this was just another tantrum. They thought I would cool off, call them tomorrow, apologize for overreacting, and things would go back to normal. They thought I was weak because I was kind. I walked over to my laptop and opened it. The screen glowed blue in the dark kitchen. I logged into my banking portal. My eyes scanned down the list of accounts until I found it. Sub-account, Bella's Future Education Trust. Balance, $82,450. I stared at the number. It was a fortune. It was money I had scraped together over 12 years. Bonuses, stock options, tax returns. I had started it when Bella was 5, back when I thought her behavioral issues were just phases. I wanted to ensure she had a start in life that I never had. I wanted to be the good aunt. I wanted to buy their love if I was being honed. Sent with myself, I wanted to prove I was part of the family. Vanessa knew about the account. Joyce knew about the account. They bragged about it to their friends. "Oh, Bella is going to a private university," Vanessa would say at parties. "My sister has it covered. We're very close." They relied on this money. Bella's grades were mediocre at best. She wasn't getting scholarships. Vanessa had zero savings. She spent her money on lease payments for luxury cars and designer handbags to keep up appearances. They needed this money. They felt entitled to this money. I clicked on the account details. My finger hovered over the transfer funds button. "Don't be so sensitive," the words echoed in my head. "Okay, Mom," I whispered to the empty room. "I won't be sensitive, I'll be practical." They thought they held all the power because they could hurt my feelings. But they had forgotten one crucial thing. The money wasn't a right, it was a gift. And gifts can be revoked. To understand why what I did next was so nuclear, you have to understand the history. You have to understand the dynamic of the triad, as I called them in my head: Joyce, Vanessa, and Bella. I was the mistake, the accident. I came along 5 years after Vanessa when my parents' marriage was already crumbling. Vanessa was the golden child, the pretty one, the charismatic one, the one who could do no wrong. I was the quiet one, the studious one, the one who faded into the background. When our father left, Joyce fell apart. Vanessa rebelled, partying and causing chaos. I was the one who stepped up. At 16, I was managing the household budget. I was cooking dinner. I was making sure the bills got paid. I worked 2 jobs through college to pay my own tuition so I wouldn't be a burden on Joyce, while Vanessa's beauty school tuition, which she dropped out of, and her subsequent 3 failed business ventures were fully funded by refinancing my mother's house. I became a senior operations manager for a major logistics firm not because I loved logistics, but because it paid well. I needed to be safe. I needed to be secure. And pathologically, I needed to take care of them. Vanessa never held a steady job. She was a freelance lifestyle consultant, which effectively meant she posted photos of her brunch on Instagram and lived off alimony from her 2 ex-husbands and handouts from Joyce, which were actually handouts from me, filtered through Joyce. Bella was Vanessa's masterpiece. From the time she could walk, Vanessa taught her that she was the center of the universe. If Bella hit another child on the playground, Vanessa would scream at the other child's mother. If Bella failed a test, the teacher was incompetent. Bella was never told no. She was never taught empathy. She was shaped into a weapon of entitlement. I remember a specific incident 2 years ago. Bella wanted a car for her 16th birthday. Not just any car, a brand new Jeep. Vanessa didn't have the credit for it. They came to my house for dinner. Vanessa was overly sweet, pouring me wine, complimenting my home. "Lizzie," Vanessa had purred, using the nickname I hated. "You know how hard Bella has been working. She really needs a safe car for school, and since you're the wealthy aunt, we thought maybe you could co-sign." "I'm not co-signing a loan, Vanessa," I had said gently. "But the college fund is doing well. That's the big gift, a debt-free degree." "Ah, you're so stingy," Bella had muttered from the end of the table. "You live in this big house all alone with the weirdo. You can afford a Jeep. The weirdo was Leo. I should have stopped it then. I should have cut them off right then. But I didn't. I looked at Joyce, and she gave me that look, the wobbly chin, the watery eyes. Please, Elizabeth, don't cause a fight, just help your sister. So I compromised. I didn't co-sign the car, but I paid for Bella's study abroad trip to France that summer to smooth things over. $6,000. Gone. And when Bella came back, she didn't even bring me a keychain. She just complained that the hotel didn't have adequate air conditioning. They didn't see me as a person. They saw me as an ATM with a pulse. A servant who should be grateful for their tolerance of my difficult son. But last night was different. Last night, they attacked Leo. They attacked the one person in this world who I loved more than my own need for their approval. I sat at my kitchen island, the blue light of the laptop illuminating my face. Transfer amount: $82,450 from Bella's Future Education Trust to Elizabeth Personal Savings, High Yield. Reason for transfer: closing account. I took a deep breath. My heart was hammering against my ribs, not from fear, but from adrenaline. The kind of adrenaline you feel before a skydive. I clicked submit. A confirmation window popped up. Are you sure you want to transfer the full balance and close this account? This action cannot be undone. I thought, oh. Leo's face when the cake collapsed. I thought of Bella's smirk. I thought of Joyce's laugh. I am absolutely sure, I said. I clicked yes. The screen refreshed, transfer successful, account closed. The money was gone. It was back in my name, safe in an account they couldn't touch, couldn't see, and certainly couldn't spend. I sat back in my chair and exhaled. I felt lighter, physically lighter. I knew what was coming. Tomorrow was Monday. Tuition deposits for the private university Bella had been accepted to, the one she had been bragging about for months, were due on Friday. Vanessa was counting on me to cut the check directly to the school, as I had promised to do. They were going to wake up to a very different reality. I went upstairs, turned off my phone, and for the first time in years, I slept like a baby. I woke up at 5:30 a.m. on Monday, not to an alarm, but to the silence of a house that finally felt like my own. For years, my mornings had been a frantic mental checklist of everyone else's needs. Did I remind Joyce to take her heart medication? Did I transfer the grocery money to Vanessa? Did I check if Bella's tuition deposit deadline was confirmed? Today, the list was blank, or rather, it was rewritten. I walked into the kitchen and made coffee, the good beans I usually saved for weekends. I poured a cup and sat in the stillness. My phone, which I had left on the counter overnight, was vibrating incessantly. It was dancing across the granite like a possessed beetle. 23 missed calls, 48 text messages. I didn't unlock it. I simply pressed the power button to silence it and took a sip of coffee. The caffeine hit my system, sharpening the clarity I had found the night before. I wasn't just angry anymore, I was operational. In my line of work, when a supply chain breaks, you don't cry about the lost cargo. You secure the remaining assets, identify the point of failure, and cut the liability. Vanessa and Joyce were liabilities. I opened my laptop. The first thing I did was email my estate attorney, Mr. Henderson. Subject: urgent revocation of power of attorney, and will amendment, dear Mr. Henderson, effective immediately. I need to remove Joyce Miller and Vanessa Miller as beneficiaries from my life insurance policy and my will. I also need to revoke the medical power of attorney, granting my sister decision-making rights. Please draft the paperwork for my signature today. Next, I logged into my cell phone provider. I saw 4 lines on my account. Elizabeth, primary, Leo watch, mom, iPhone 15, Vanessa, iPhone 15 Pro Max. I clicked Manage Lines. I selected Vanessa's line. Suspend service. Reason: stolen lost device. It wasn't technically a lie, she had lost the privilege of using it. I did the same for Joyce. Then I went through the streaming services. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify Family Plan, Amazon Prime. I changed every single password. It was petty, yes, but it was also a necessary reclamation of territory. They lived their lives subsidized by my sensitivity, and they had mistaken my generosity for a utility bill, something that just happened automatically. But I needed to go deeper. If I was going to sever ties, I had to make sure there were no lingering threads they could pull to unravel me. I managed Joyce's finances. It was a role I had taken on 5 years ago when she started getting confused about bills. I had access to her primary checking account to ensure her mortgage and utilities were paid. I hadn't looked closely at the transaction history in months, usually just ensuring the balance was positive. I logged in. What I saw made my stomach drop. The balance was dangerously low, $400. It should have been around $4,000 this time of month after her pension deposit. I clicked on Transaction History. Venmo v. Miller, $500, groceries, Venmo v. Miller, $300, Bella School stuff, ATM withdrawal, Casino District, $400, Venmo v. Miller, $800, car repair. The list went on. Hundreds of dollars bleeding out of my mother's account every single week, almost all of it going to Vanessa. I felt a cold chill. I scrolled back 3 months. The total transferred to Vanessa was over $9,000. I sat back, my hands trembling slightly. This wasn't just enabling, this was financial elder abuse. Vanessa was draining our mother dry, and Joyce was likely letting her do it, or worse, didn't know the extent of it. But then I saw something that made me freeze. Check 4052, amount, $2,500, image view. I clicked to view the check image. It was made out to cash. The signature at the bottom read Joyce Miller, but the handwriting was wrong. The loops on the J were too sharp. The slant was backwards. It was Vanessa's handwriting. My sister wasn't just borrowing money. She was forging checks. I picked up my phone. I didn't call Vanessa. I didn't call Joyce. I called a private investigator I had used for a corporate background check years ago, a man named Marcus, who could find a needle in a haystack of digital hay. "Marcus, it's Elizabeth," I said when he picked up. "I need you to run a comprehensive financial background check on my sister." "Trouble?" he asked, his voice gravelly. "I need to know everything," I said, my voice dropping to a whisper so I wouldn't wake Leo. "Credit cards opened in other names, outstanding debts, liens. I have reason to believe she's committing fraud. And Marcus? Rush it. I need leverage by tonight." "I'm on it," he said. I hung up. I wasn't just a sister anymore. I was the prosecution. I didn't go to work. I called in sick for the first time in 4 years. I couldn't sit in a meeting about supply chain logistics while my own family was imploding. Instead, I stayed home, keeping Leo close. We baked cookies, real ones, with a recipe I read carefully, correcting him gently, rebuilding his confidence 1 teaspoon of sugar at a time. At 11:30 a.m., the doorbell rang. It wasn't a polite ring. It was a continuous, demanding press, followed by heavy pounding. "Mom," Leo looked up from the cookie dough, eyes wide. "Stay here, sweetie," I said, wiping my hands on a towel. "Put your headphones on, watch your videos, do not come to the door." I walked to the foyer. I could see the distorted shapes of 2 women through the frosted glass. I took a deep breath, unlocked the deadbolt, and opened the door. Vanessa and Joyce were standing there. Vanessa looked deranged. Her hair was messy, her eyes wild, and she was clutching her deactivated phone like a weapon. Joyce looked smaller, frazzled, leaning on Vanessa for support. "You changed the passwords." Vanessa screamed before I could even say hello. "You cut off my phone. Are you insane? I have calls to make. I have a life." "Hello to you too," I said, leaning against the doorframe, blocking their entry. And yes, I did. "Why?" Joyce wailed, her voice cracking. "Elizabeth, why are you doing this? Over a cake? Over a stupid cake?" "It's not about the cake," I said calmly. "It's about the fact that you don't respect me, you don't respect my son, and you feel entitled to everything I have. I don't have time for your therapy speech." Vanessa pushed past me, shoving her shoulder into mine. She marched into my living room, her heels clicking aggressively on the hardwood. Fix my phone, now, and while you're at it, transfer the tuition money. The deposit is due Friday, and the admissions office just emailed me saying the payment portal was declined. I turned slowly, closing the front door but staying near it. The portal was declined because there is no money in the account, Vanessa. Vanessa froze. She spun around, her face losing its color. What? I closed the account, I said. The trust is dissolved. The money is back in my savings. The silence that followed was heavy, thick with disbelief. Joyce gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. You can't do that, Vanessa stammered. That's Bella's money, you promised. I promised to help a family member, I corrected. I didn't promise to bankroll a bully who calls my son ugly while you sip wine and watch. She's a child, Joyce cried out, stepping toward me. She didn't mean it. She was just being a teenager. You are destroying her future over a joke. It wasn't a joke, Mom, I said, my voice hardening. It was cruelty, and you laughed. You laughed at Leo. So you steal $50,000, Vanessa shrieked. 82,000, I corrected her. And it's not stealing, it's my money, it always was, I earned it, I saved it, and now I'm keeping it. Vanessa's face twisted. The mask of the grieving, wronged mother slipped, revealing the desperate grifter underneath. You have to give it back, she hissed. I already spent the deposit. I blinked. The deposit hasn't been paid, you just said it was declined. Not the tuition deposit, Vanessa yelled, throwing her hands up. The housing, the sorority fees, I put down first and last month's rent on her off-campus apartment. I used the credit card Elizabeth. I assumed the trust would reimburse me this week. You spent money you didn't have, I said, shaking my head in disbelief. On an apartment, she's a freshman. She's supposed to be in the dorms. The dorms are for losers, Vanessa spat. Bella needs space. I put $5,000 on the Amex. If you don't pay this tuition, the financial aid won't trigger and I can't pay off the card. That sounds like a you problem, I said. You selfish bitch, Vanessa lunged at me. Joyce grabbed her arm, holding her back. Elizabeth, please, Joyce begged, tears streaming down her face. Fix this, just fix this, be the bigger person. You always are, don't ruin your sister's life. Don't ruin Bella's life. I'm done being the bigger person, I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous quiet. I'm done being the bank. Get out of my house. I'm not leaving until you write a check, Vanessa screamed. TH. And I'm calling the police, I said, pulling my phone from my pocket. And while they're here, maybe we can discuss the checks you've been writing from Mom's account, the ones with the funny signatures. The color drained from Vanessa's face so fast she looked like a corpse. Joyce looked between us, confused. What checks? What are you talking about? Vanessa grabbed Joyce's arm. We're leaving, she muttered, pulling our mother toward the door. She's crazy, Mom. Don't listen to her. We're leaving. Get out, I repeated. Vanessa glared at me one last time, a look of pure, unadulterated hatred. This isn't over. You'll pay for this. I already have, I said. For 30 years, the bill is settled. I slammed the door behind them and locked it. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. They didn't stop. Of course they didn't stop. By Monday evening, the social media assault began. My cousin in Ohio sent me a screenshot of a Facebook post Vanessa had made. It was a long, rambling diatribe about toxic family members who steal from children and ruin dreams out of jealousy. She didn't tag me, but she didn't have to. The comments were filled with our extended family and her friends calling me a monster. How could anyone do that to a child? Karma will get her. Some people are just bitter because they're miserable alone. Then the flying monkeys arrived. Aunt Linda called, leaving a voicemail saying she was disappointed in my hardness of heart. My brother-in-law, Vanessa's second ex-husband, oddly enough, texted me saying I was messing with the wrong people. But while they were fighting a PR war, I was fighting a legal one. My email pinged at 8:00 p.m. It was Marcus, the pie. Subject, Report on V. Miller Preliminary Findings Attachment, Miller Report PDF. I opened the file. It was worse than I thought, much worse. Vanessa wasn't just skimming from Joyce, she was drowning. She had 3 maxed-out credit cards totaling $45,000. She had a payday loan outstanding for $5,000. But the kicker was the business she claimed to run. She had taken out a small business loan in Joyce's name 2 years ago, $20,000. It was currently in default. The bank was preparing to put a lien on Joyce's house, my mother's house, the house I grew up in, the house Joyce thought she owned free and clear. I felt sick. Joyce was going to be homeless because of Vanessa's lifestyle, and she didn't even know it. I picked up the phone and called Joyce. I had to warn her. I had to tell her that this wasn't about a cake anymore, it was about survival. "Hello," Joyce answered on the first ring. Her voice was icy. "Mom, listen to me," I said urgently. "You need to check your credit report, right now." "I don't want to talk to you," Joyce snapped. "Vanessa is a mess. Bella is crying in her room. You have broken this family, Elizabeth." "Mom, Vanessa took out a loan in your name," I said, cutting through her guilt trip. $20,000. It's in default. They are going to take your house." There was a pause, then Joyce let out a harsh, mocking laugh. "Oh, stop it. You're lying. You're just trying to make her look bad to justify what you did. Vanessa told me you'd say things like this. She said you'd try to turn me against her." "I have the report, Mom. I can email it to you." "I don't want your fake emails," Joyce yelled. "Vanessa is a good mother. She is trying her best. She takes care of me. You're the one who abandoned us. You're the one with the cold heart." "She forged your signature on checks, Mom. I saw the images." "I gave her permission," Joyce screamed. The lie was so obvious, so desperate. "I told her to sign them. It's my money. I can do what I want with it. If she needs it, she can have it." "Even if it leaves you homeless?" I asked, my voice trembling. "She would never do that," Joyce said, her voice wavering slightly but hardening again instantly. "You are just jealous. You've always been jealous of her, because she's happy, because she knows how to live. She's a criminal, Mom." "You are no daughter of mine," Joyce said. "Fix the tuition by tomorrow, or don't bother coming to Christmas. Don't bother coming to my funeral." The line went dead. I sat there, the phone in my hand, listening to the silence. It was the final severance. She had chosen. She had chosen the lie because the truth was too painful to bear. She would rather lose her house than admit her golden child was a failure. But I couldn't let them win. I couldn't let them destroy everything and blame me. I looked at the PDF again. I saw something else near the bottom of the report, a shared address. Bella Miller, co-tenant listed on lease. 4502 Oaksent Apt 4B other tenant. Jason J. Thorne. Jason Thorne, I knew that name. He was Vanessa's boyfriend, a 24-year-old aspiring DJ she had been seeing on and off. Bella wasn't living in an off-campus apartment for school. She was moving in with her mother's boyfriend. ND and the tuition money, the school required direct payment. If Vanessa was demanding I write a check to her so she could pay the portal, she wasn't paying tuition. She was funding their life. I logged into the university portal. I still had the guest access Bella had given me months ago to help her pick classes. Student status, application withdrawn by student, date 2 weeks ago. Bella wasn't even going to college. The realization hit me like a freight train. There was no school, there was no degree, the entire tuition crisis, the housing deposit, it was all a scam. They were going to take the $82,000, split it, and live off it while pretending Bella was in classes. They weren't just entitled, they were con artists. I felt a cold, hard resolve settle in my chest. I wasn't just going to defend myself, I was going to expose them, all of them. I printed the documents, the forged checks, the default notice on the house, the withdrawn college application, the lease with the boyfriend. I organized them into a neat folder. I picked up my phone and texted Vanessa. Me, you win. I'll bring the check. Meet me at Aunt Linda's house tomorrow. I want the whole family there to witness me apologizing. Vanessa, immediate reply, finally. 6 p.m., don't be late. She thought she had broken me. She thought she was getting her payday. She had no idea she was inviting the executioner to dinner. Aunt Linda's house was the neutral ground of our family, a sprawling suburban home filled with too many ceramic figurines and the smell of potpourri. When I pulled into the driveway at 5:58 p.m., there were already 5 cars there. Vanessa had rallied the troops. She wanted an audience for her victory lap. She wanted everyone to see the repentant sister handing over the check that would save her precious daughter's future. I grabbed the heavy manila envelope from the passenger seat. It felt like a brick in my hand, solid, dangerous, necessary. "You ready, Leo?" I asked, looking in the rearview mirror. He was staying in the car with his iPad and headphones, locked safely away from the toxicity. I had hired a security guard, a large, silent man named Davis from my company's private security firm, who was parked right behind us in an unmarked sedan. He wasn't there to fight, he was there to witness. "Yeah, Mom," Leo said, not looking up from his game. "Just don't be too long." "I won't be," I promised. I walked up the path to the front door. I didn't knock, I just walked in. The living room was full. Aunt Linda, Uncle Bob, 2 cousins, Joyce, Vanessa, and Bella were all there, seated in a loose circle like a tribunal. Vanessa was in the center, looking triumphant in a new dress that I knew she couldn't afford. Bella was next to her, looking bored and scrolling on her phone, the very picture of a wronged victim. Joyce looked nervous, wringing her hands in her lap. "Well," Vanessa said loudly as I entered, "look who finally decided to show up. Did you bring it?" The room went quiet. All eyes were on me. Aunt Linda crossed her arms, giving me a stern look. "Elizabeth, we're all glad you came to your senses. Family is family. You can't just cut people off over a misunderstanding." "It wasn't a misunderstanding, Linda," I said calmly, walking to the center of the room. "But you're right, family is family, and families should tell the truth." "Just give her the check, Elizabeth," Joyce pleaded, her voice trembling. "Let's put this behind us. Bella needs to secure her dorm." I looked at Bella. She didn't meet my eyes. She just kept scrolling, a small, smug smile playing on her lips. "Actually," I said, my voice projecting clearly in the silent room, "I have a few questions before I hand over any money, just to clarify the plan." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, here we go, the interrogation. Just pay the tuition, Elizabeth. Stop trying to control everything." "It's a simple question," I said, reaching into the envelope. "Bella, what dorm are you assigned to? I need to put it on the memo line of the check." Bella froze. Her thumb hovered over her screen. She glanced quickly at Vanessa. "It's, North Hall," Vanessa answered quickly. "Standard freshman dorm." "North Hall," I repeated. "That's interesting, because I logged into the university housing portal this morning." I pulled out the first document, a crisp, color printout of the withdrawal confirmation. "According to the university registrar," I read aloud, "Bella Miller voluntarily withdrew her enrollment application 14 days ago. Status, canceled. Reason, personal." The silence in the room changed frequency. It went from judgmental to confused. "What?" Aunt Linda asked, frowning. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, holding up the paper for everyone to see, "that Bella isn't going to college. She isn't enrolled. There is no tuition to pay. There is no dorm deposit." Vanessa stood up, her face flushing a deep, angry red. "That's a lie, you fake that. She's deferred. It's a deferment." "It says withdrawn, Vanessa," I said, my voice icy. "But if she's not going to school, where is she going to live? You said you needed $5,000 for an apartment deposit." I pulled out the second document, the lease agreement Marcus had found. 4502 Oak Street, I read, tenant Bella Miller, co-tenant Jason Thorne. I looked at Joyce. "Mom, do you know who Jason Thorne is?" Joyce looked pale, shaking her head slowly. "No, who is he?" "He's Vanessa's 24-year-old boyfriend," I said. "The DJ." A collective gasp went through the room. Aunt Linda's hand flew to her mouth. "You're lying," Vanessa screamed, lunging toward me. "Shut up, shut your mouth." But I didn't flinch. "So the plan wasn't college," I continued, my voice rising over her screaming. "The plan was to take the $82,000 from the trust, my money, and use it to fund an apartment for Bella, you, and your boyfriend to live in while you pretended she was in school. You were going to split the cash and party on my dime for 4 years." "That is not true," Vanessa shrieked, looking frantically at the family. "She's making it up. She's jealous. She's trying to ruin Bella's reputation." "And what about Mom's reputation?" I asked, pulling out the third document, the default notice on the loan. "This is a notice of default on a small business loan taken out in the name of Joyce Miller," I said, turning to my mother. "For $20,000. The collateral listed is your house, Mom, your house." Joyce stared at the paper. Her hands were shaking so hard her bracelets jingled. "No," she whispered. "No, that's—" Vanessa said that was for the renovations. She said she was paying it. "She hasn't paid a dime in 6 months," I said brutally. "And the renovations never happened, did they? Where did the money go, Vanessa?" Vanessa was backing away now, her back hitting the mantelpiece. She looked like a cornered animal. I invested it," she stammered. In crypto, it's going to bounce back. I was going to pay it off next week." "And the checks?" I pulled out the final stack. The high-resolution images of the forged checks. $10,000 in cash withdrawals from Mom's pension account over the last 3 months. Signatures that don't match. Dates that coincide with your trips to the casino. I threw the photos onto the coffee table. They fanned out like a losing hand of cards. "That is fraud, Vanessa," I said. "Elder abuse, grand larceny, identity theft." The room was deadly silent. Aunt Linda was staring at Vanessa with horror. Uncle Bob looked like he was about to be sick. Joyce was the one who broke. She let out a low, keen wail and slumped forward, burying her face in her hands. "My house, my house." "You did this," Vanessa hissed, pointing a trembling finger at me. "You did this. You went digging. Why couldn't you just leave it alone? Why did you have to ruin everything?" "I didn't ruin anything," I said, feeling a strange, cold calm wash over me. "I just turned on the lights. You're the one who made the mess." "I'm calling the police," Uncle Bob said, standing up. His voice was grim. This is criminal, Vanessa. You stole from your own mother." "No," Vanessa screamed. "Mom, tell them you gave me permission." Joyce looked up. Her eyes were red, her face ravaged by betrayal. She looked at her golden child, the daughter she had excused for 40 years. And then she looked at the photos of the checks. Joyce's voice cracked. "I never signed those." It was the first time in my life I had heard her hold Vanessa accountable. "You ungrateful old hag," Vanessa screamed at our mother. "After everything I do for you, I visit you every day. She never visits. She just buys you things. I give you love." "You give her bankruptcy," I said. I turned to leave. "The police have already been notified of the fraud on the trust account attempts. The rest is up to you, Mom. But I'm done. I'm keeping my money. I'm keeping my son away from you. And I suggest you find a lawyer, Vanessa. You're going to need one." I walked out of the house. Behind me, the screaming started again, but this time, it wasn't directed at me. It was the sound of a family devouring itself. I got into the car. Leo looked up. "Did you give them the money?" he asked. "No, baby," I said, putting the car in gear. "I gave them the truth." The fallout was swift and catastrophic. Vanessa was arrested 3 days later. It turned out Joyce wasn't her only victim. She had also opened credit cards in Bella's name, her own daughter, ruining the girl's credit before she even turned 18. That was the final straw for the district attorney. They threw the book at her. She's currently serving 4 years for multiple counts of fraud and identity theft. Bella didn't go to college. Without the trust fund and with her mother in prison, reality hit her. Hard, she moved in with her father, Vanessa's first ex-husband, a strict man who lives in Ohio and runs a hardware store. From what I hear, she's working the register there, paying off her own debts. She sent me a letter a few months ago. It wasn't an apology exactly. It was just a birthday card for Leo. Inside, she had written, "Sorry about the cake. It was a stupid thing to do." It wasn't much, but it was a start. Joyce lost the house. There was no saving it. The liens were too deep, the debt too massive. She had to sell it to avoid foreclosure. She moved into a small, state-subsidized senior apartment complex a few towns over. I visited her once, about 6 months after the explosion. Her apartment was small, smelling of old tea and regret. She looked older, smaller. "You could have helped her," she said to me, sitting in her armchair. She didn't look at me. "You had the money, you could have paid it off. We could have kept the house." I looked at her, feeling a profound sense of pity, but no guilt. "I could have," I admitted, "but I would have been paying for her crimes, and you would have let me." "She's your sister," Joyce whispered. "And I'm your daughter," I said. "But you never protected me the way you protected her. You let her abuse me. You let her abuse Leo. You laughed when she hurt him." Joyce didn't say anything. She just stared at the wall. "I won't be coming back, Mom," I said gently. "I'll make sure your bills are paid. I'll make sure you have groceries. But I can't be your emotional punching bag anymore. I have my own family to protect." I left the key on the table and walked out. I haven't seen her since. My life now is peaceful. That's the only word for it. The silence in my house isn't lonely, it's serene. My bank account is secure. My weekends are my own. Leo is thriving. We used a portion of the college fund, since it was now just my savings, to build a real baking studio in our kitchen. We bought a professional mixer, marble countertops, and every color of fondant imaginable. Last week was his 9th birthday. He invited 3 friends from school, quiet, sweet kids who like Minecraft and drawing. They made their own pizzas. When it was time for the cake, I brought it out. We had made it together. It was a 3-tier chocolate masterpiece, covered in galaxy-themed frosting with edible stars and planets. It was perfectly level. It was beautiful. "Make a wish, Leo," I said, lighting the candles. He closed his eyes, his face illuminated by the flickering light. He smiled, a real, unburdened smile. He blew out the candles. "What did you wish for?" one of his friends asked. Leo looked at me, his glasses slipping down his nose. "Nothing," he said. "I already have everything I want." I hugged him tight, breathing in the smell of chocolate and childhood. I realized then that the ugly cake hadn't been a disaster. It had been a gift. It was the catalyst that forced me to burn down the rot so that something healthy could finally grow in its place. They called me sensitive. They called me dramatic. But in the end, I was just a mother who drew a line in the sand. And I will never, ever apologize for defending it.